Thanks for joining us on the John Mendola Show. We are driven by McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers. Let's talk Williamsport Millionaires Golf. William Knuth joining us right now. He is a senior. And William, welcome into the show. And boy, you got a heck of a resume on you, and you're just a senior in high school. Let's first talk about your golf game and working hard there for the Millionaires this season.
Yeah, it's great. I've been trending in the right direction the last couple of weeks. I just shot a 70 today at Williamsport Country Club, and I'm looking forward to the postseason. I think I can make a run at states.
And William, let's talk about that golf game. Different elements to it. Some guys are long off the tee, and the short games, the putting. What are some components now of this golf game right now that's letting you shoot scores like a 70?
So my golf game, since I'm not a big guy, I'm only 5'7", 5'8", my golf game isn't about bombing the ball long. I also have a little bit of a weakness with the driver, hitting it a little bit crooked, but my biggest strength is with the iron game. I always strike the ball solid, and when I'm in a good position, I almost always hit the green and put myself in a really good position to make a par.
The mental game, such an important component of golf, and you sound like a confident young man, and you do more than golf. We'll get to those elements, as we said earlier, coming up,
Yeah.
but talk a little bit about that mental approach. How do you approach it when you're out there on the course?
Well, the mental game is very difficult, especially in golf. Basically, my approach is to focus on each shot with individual attention. I try to only think about the shot I'm hitting while I'm hitting it, leave other shots behind other than if I have to make an adjustment, of course. But I always like to think about the fact that I've hit each of these shots 1,000,002 times, and I know that I can pull it off. So it's really difficult to maintain that attitude all of the time, because once things go crooked, it's hard to right the ship sometimes. But when I'm going strong with my mental game, that's what I try to think about, one shot at a time, and laser focus on each shot.
William Knuth from Williamsport joining us here on the John Mendola Show. And William, you sound so focused and so thorough in your thought process. Talk a little bit about your family and where all that stuff comes from.
So, yeah, my thought process and being thorough and that kind of thing, my upbringing certainly has had something to do with that. I've played violin my whole life, and that is it's a very practice and focus oriented discipline. So that's really helped me be able to focus on the task at hand, and really, so in violin you have to practice for hours at a time, and sometimes with really boring repetitions, but you find a way to focus on that, and that's really helped me to be able to focus in the rest of my life. Now, both of my parents actually went to Ivy League schools, so they're very well educated, and they've helped me become the person I am today, being focused and presentable, and correcting grammar sometimes too, and also serving as a role model, and it allows me to set goals for myself that I know are attainable. Like going to an Ivy League school, I know it's a real possibility because I live with two people who have gone to them.
Well, it sounds like you got your act together, and you're following suit there in the family. And I'm sure there's an element of pressure to say, hey, I want to go do this stuff. But at the same time, there's probably an element of pleasure with being able to do some of these things that you've been able to accomplish here in your high school career and go on to that next level. Let's talk a little bit about some of your interests if indeed you do head to an Ivy school, about a major. So
right now, my two biggest interests, it's kind of funny, they're very opposite of each other, but political science and physics. I really love the feeling in physics when I finally grasp something. It's a very special feeling, and just being able to understand how the world around me works, being able to quantify it and see why everything works, it's very satisfying to me. Now, political science, it kind of comes out of the same interest in me. I like to understand the way that people interact with each other politically, and I like to be able to understand why people are doing the things that they do. And through that understanding, I've developed ideas of how I think I can go in there and make improvements on the system, and that's why I'm interested in it.
William Knuth here on the John Mendola Show as we talk Williamsport Millionaires Golf, also involved with the violin. And William, those expectations and the accomplishments that you have in the classroom, I'm sure you've built some nice relationships there at Williamsport, maybe with some staff members, some teachers, guidance department administrators. Tell us a little bit about kind of growing with your academia there at Williamsport and meeting some of these people and getting to know them a little better along the way. And I'm sure they're loving to see what you're all about there for the Millionaires.
Yeah, so I have quite a few teachers at the high school that I've really been able to have some nice conversations with. Even outside of the academic topics they teach, they've really been great to me. My orchestra director, I've taken orchestra from him for 8 years. He actually moved up to the high school only a couple of years before I got to the high school. So I've developed a pretty good relationship with him professionally, and we can also bro out and go play golf. It's really great. And I have a couple other teachers, like Mr. Nicholas, my history teacher. We can talk about anything. We can talk about why certain laws don't make sense. We can talk about college admissions and the way those things work. We can just talk shop about life and just general things that come to mind at the moment. And he was a great teacher of history too. That's only to name a couple of them. At Williamsport High School, we really have a lot of great teachers, and I've developed some good relationships with all of them. It's great.
There's a lot of positives going on right now at your school, and sometimes people could focus on the negatives, whether it's people around in any town or people in the media or what have you. But we're only looking at the positives on this show and looking at all the great things that guys like yourself are doing at your school. And how about for yourself, seeing some of those positives yourself and trying to help others at your school?
Well, for one, I think not only do people focus on the negatives, but there are a lot fewer negatives than people actually think. And I know Williamsport sometimes has a bad reputation because everyone thinks we're all gangsters, but it's really, it couldn't be further from the truth. I haven't heard of a fight at Williamsport in a very long time. It's actually a very positive place. But those positives you're talking about. So one of my favorite things to do is to be able to see that I'm helping someone, whether it's with their golf game or with their physics homework or with their violin, or really anything, or with their relationships even. There's nothing I like more than being able to recognize that I've helped someone and that it's made them happy. And there are a lot of people like that at Williamsport that are doing those great things and really trying to help each other out. I know all my teachers think that way. A lot of my fellow students think that way. It's really good.
Those things that you do to help others, they'll pay off down the road, and they're probably paying off for you now, as you sound, again, so well-rounded, really articulate. How about the studying part for you? Something, again, does it come natural? Do you like to read? What are some things that you really focus in on the high school level academically that you know that could take you in two different career paths there when you get to one of those schools?
So I think for me, it really has been relatively natural to learn things, and I do enjoy learning things. Now, my study habits could be a little bit better. I'm sometimes a little bit cursory with my jobs on homeworks, but I do enjoy learning, and right now I am taking 3 college classes each semester on top of taking 3 courses at the high school. So I'm running back and forth between schools, and it's a rigorous and overloaded schedule, but it's paying off.
Well, it sounds like you got the world right in front of you, William. You're doing a heck of a job. We wish you the very best with that golf game. Of course, continued success at the violin and in your classroom studies that you have, and your future endeavors sound very bright. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
William Knuth, a senior at the Williamsport Area High School here on the John Mendola Show. We are driven by McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers.